What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash podcast. Happy holidays to all of you out there entering your holiday season. To kick off today, we have another excellent episode with Patrick Young. He's the head of partnerships for Galxe, a leading Web3 infrastructure and digital credential network, empowering seamless Web3 experiences. So we're going to have a great conversation today. Patrick's on the show. Patrick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, Brandon. I appreciate you having me on.
Likewise, it's a pleasure. To kick things off, I'm sure people would love to get to know you a little bit more and your background, how you got into the Web3 space, and maybe a little bit about your story, how it led up to Galxe as well.
Yeah, happy to do so. I've been involved in the space for about the last 8 or 9 years, and really spent the majority of my professional career, and honestly, the majority of my time at university as well, was for the most part kind of happenstance or a bit random at that. And it effectively happened as a result of my family moving from the United States to Switzerland in 2015. At the time, admittedly, I was freshman at university, a marketing major, and that was probably the extent of it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and that being said, wasn't going to turn down a trip to go kind of explore Europe and see what Switzerland had to offer. Um, that being said, through that experience and really at random again, was able to primarily through kind of word of mouth and just seeing a lot of the innovation that was happening primarily in Zug, known as the Crypto Valley. Got to hear a lot about this technology being Web3, being blockchain, cryptocurrency, crypto assets, and a lot of the innovation that was taking place around the space. And that was enough to give me kind of that surface level understanding of what the technology was, what it represented. But I think the aha moment for me at the time was when I came across some information around how the canton of Zug was looking to leverage blockchain to facilitate digital identity and voting on the blockchain. And at that point, that was really for me the kind of aha, iceberg moment where it sent me down the rabbit hole of understanding, this is exactly the scope at which this technology is going to play a role in any given industry, and it can have a very significant impact on all of our futures, not just financial, but political, social, and so on. And again, that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole over the next couple of months where pretty much everything for me was about a blur. I mean, it was reading hundreds, hundreds of white papers, absorbing all of the information that I could about the technology, joining meetup groups, meetups, had an opportunity to see Andreas Antonopoulos speak. And again, just consuming anything that I could get my hands on when it came to this technology. It really did consume my entire life for a long period of time there. That said, I think at a certain point, researching and familiarizing myself with everything from the technology perspective, took that back to university, my University of Ohio, where I was studying, and met with the leadership team out there and basically said, hey, this technology is coming, and what is the university doing to provide the resources and the support? What type of investment is the university looking to make in the space? And sure, if this technology is going to be sticking around or playing a role in our futures, so we're not really ready to make any sort of concerted effort to support this from an education standpoint. And really, as a result of that conversation, I decided to start MBDC, which is a blockchain organization on campus there, still running today, and really began effectively filling that gap that existed from an academic standpoint, where we focused very heavily on building a structured curriculum around educating not only what the technology was, but serving as that resource for students to understand how that could potentially impact their different fields of study. And then again, not much, later than that, and I think it to the credit of the university itself, they did come back to the table and said, hey, we see what's happening. We see the interest that the organization has developed, and we're looking to make that investment now. So that kind of snowballed into us helping develop some of the course curriculum for the university. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Miami University of Ohio, I should clarify, was number, I think, 7 or 8 in the United States to have a undergraduate course curriculum dedicated to this technology. And yeah, from there, as one of the initial members of their BD team, and spent about 4 years with Chainlink Labs, doing everything from running growth and retention to GTM strategy, some of the product launch work that we were involved in, And then by the end of my, what I would consider almost like a tenure there, given 4 years in this space is considered, I think, a long time at any given one place. Ended up running the Web3 sales business, just up until the last through 2024, I should say. And that kind of takes us to today, where I joined, to your point earlier, that I joined Galxe as head of partnerships, so supporting BD and marketing for the team today.
Now it sounds like you've done plenty in the space. Definitely touched a lot of areas.
There's no shortage of things to do in the space, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's good, man. Was there anything in particular about Galxe that excited you that made you want to be a part of that team?
Through the 4 years that I worked at Chainlink primarily, it was very commonplace for any given team that we were working with. And from my perspective, um, working with Chainlink was kind of one of the critical steps for protocols development primarily, where they'd come to Chainlink to outfit themselves with data or cross chain or automation or one of these other critical functions. And in that very same conversation, they were saying, as another critical step in our development process, we're working with Galxe and finding ways to collaborate with them across rewards distribution, incentive campaigns, credentials management, and others. So it was really a very present part of the conversations that I was having on a day-to-day basis. And I've always seen Galxe as this kind of fundamental layer that is required these days to be a successful team. So it was a pretty natural kind of conversation there to say, hey, this might be the next big adventure for myself, and I think the team has nothing but promise, including a lot of the innovations that they've come to market with recently that we can talk about. A big role that they're going to be continuing to play in the future. And again, I think the other thing too on top of that is the mission statement for the team really aligned with what my vision was around kind of onboarding that next wave of users into the ecosystem, which I think Galxe is best poised to do.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. The core mission for Galxe, like, is that, what you guys are aiming to do? The seamless integration through Web3 experiences, through AI, digital identity, blockchain. Is that kind of the gist of what the mission is?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, really for us, our goal is to make Web3 universal standard, something that's accessible and beneficial to all users. And really, at the end of the day, like I mentioned, onboard that next $1 billion or billion users, apologies, billion users to engage within the ecosystem and in turn, fuel the innovation that's happening today and that'll happen in the future. Um, I think from my perspective, Galxe has certainly become like a staple of this industry over the last 3 years. It's certainly well known for pioneering on and off chain questing. And that's really only the tip of the iceberg, though, in terms of the role that Galxe plays, to your point, across AI, blockchain infrastructure, identity management, and really supporting these solutions or offering these solutions to support not only end users, but developers alike.
Awesome. What does some of the potential use cases, application use cases kind of look like for Galxe in terms of these seamless Web3 experiences? I was on the website and I saw you have Galxe Passport, Quest, Score, Compass, Alva, quite a lot of stuff there. Can you kind of walk us through some of those and what each of them kind of entail?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the easiest place to start is probably with Galaxy Quest. That is what we're probably most well known for in the space today. And like I said, I think have become the dominant player and really helped pioneer that kind of aspect of building applications, building successful communities. And Galaxy Quest at that point is a tool for teams to build incentive and growth campaigns based on and off chain tasks. So as a user, you can come and explore your different applications, maybe new applications that you've been heard of before, or existing teams that you're looking to have deeper involvement with, and see what type of activity you can perform to become a more active member within that community or within that protocol, based on any number of those different kind of tasks or questioning items that exist. And this really has become, like I was mentioning, not just a nice to have for businesses or for teams that are developing applications, but really a fundamental step in building a successful project these days, and has served as like this critical function in building community and attracting initial user base an initial user base for your application. And to really put it in perspective of how big this has been for the ecosystem itself, we've supported over 40,000 quests to date across 60 or 70 networks. And these very same quests have been completed in total over 1.2 billion times. So that in of itself has become just this core aspect of community building, user building, or building up a user base and so on. That being said, again, this is really only one of the areas that we're involved in today in this suite of services that Galxe offers. And those extend across, again, like you were mentioning, AI, identity, blockchain development, and so on. So a couple of the other ones that are probably worth noting in this conversation, a couple that you called out, one would be Galxe Passport. And Galxe Passport effectively is a way for individuals to generate soulbound NFT in partnership with a KYC provider that serves as a digital representation of their identity without exposing their sensitive information through like secret proofs, for example. And it's actually very similar to what that catalyst was for me to get involved in the space initially. So it's a little bit close to home in and of itself, where it kind of shows that identity or sovereign identity promise for engaging with different platforms, different protocols, vendors on chain. And it's something, Galxe Passport, is something that can be used or can be kind of looked at from a couple different lenses. One is being a complementary service to, or layer on service or variable, if you will, to those type of questing behaviors that we support, or similar kind of workflows where you're looking to maybe as a business or as a DApp only support or reward disproportionately or incentivize disproportionately KYC parties, given that they're more likely, or the likelihood of them being human is quite high as opposed to something like a bot. So you might be looking to incentivize or build the community around those type of individuals that are KYC. But it's also something that can be used quite innovatively across third-party vendors and outside of kind of the Galxe core ecosystem of quests and similar. And primarily the way that that's used is by doing something called KYC swapping. So by working with Galxe Passport, a different vendor can accept that KYC credential, and use that to bypass many of the steps in the onboarding process. And what that creates is a very seamless onboarding experience. We're talking about how do we onboard the next billion users. Making a seamless user experience is top of mind, certainly in that conversation. So making a more seamless onboarding experience for the end user. And then as a user, you're not having to go to, every different site, every different vendor, every different protocol and go through any sort of KYC process, where in turn, instead, you could be using the Galxe Passport to effectively bypass those steps in that process. A couple of the other ones you mentioned would be things like Galxe Score. Galxe Score is another identity geared solution, if you will, but it's not KYC based, and it's rather based on an evaluation. It's a tool for evaluating your on-chain activity and using that to determine the likelihood of a given wallet being maintained or managed by an individual human. So it takes into consideration things like, asset holdings, on-chain activity, swaps, trades, asset movements, things of that nature, NFT collections, development activity, and so on, to provide a profile for the likelihood that that wallet, again, is being maintained by a human and not, for example, a bot. So those two identity products themselves combined have over 1.5 million registered users today. So a pretty sizable amount of KYC and Galxe Score outfitted people within the space that have been leveraging those products to handle their day-to-day interactions. And then the last one that I'll touch on here, although it's, again, only a selective few of the many, is ALVA. And ALVA is our AI Copilot solution, which is really a great resource for your listeners who are looking for an AI tool that is heavily geared towards crypto, Web3, trading, for example, and really for both individuals and businesses. It's a great solution to keep you informed about everything that's happening in the space, how market conditions are evolving, what is the latest news in a very digestible, summarized format, what it means, and how it's affecting development or the markets themselves, and many more kind of areas as well. But again, that's kind of a small part of the bigger role that we play. We have multiple other areas of focus, including things like Gravity, which is our layer one, and other identity and distribution tools as well.
I want to come back to ALVA and Gravity in a second, but I had a question on Galaxy Score. Is that kind of like relatable in a way to like how a credit score would work in a traditional credit and lending sense?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's comparable to a degree, in terms of, and it really depends on how a given application wants to leverage that information that's being produced by Galaxy Score. It could, to in a very similar sense to a traditional credit system, um, be used for unlocking a certain type of activity or a certain opportunities, let's call them, whether that be like investing or any number of other areas, participation within given ecosystems. So I think depending on how you look at it, you could make those comparisons. Yeah, I'd probably say it's a fair relationship to kind of form.
Okay, interesting. And then going back to ALVA, is it kind of work in the sense like, is it like customizable in certain aspects? Like you can train it a little bit in terms of what you like in the Web3 space, because it's a very broad industry. There's a lot of things out there. I'm not sure what Alva's maybe limitations are as a co-pilot, but do you have to like kind of train it or program it in a certain way and give it information so it can kind of learn what you like in the space and what you like to trade and what you like to learn about and get educated on? Or does it have just a whole bunch of stuff kind of built into it? Or does it have its fingers throughout the Web3 space and it just kind of has access?
Yeah, so I think it's a bit of all, right? Like a bit of everything that you touched on there. So, customize, flexibility and customization is certainly, first and foremost, in the sense that, if you're looking to hone in models, if you're looking to hone in on specific aspects of the space, that's something that Alpha will provide that flexibility to do so. That being said, I mean, I think our initial approach to this was, rather than leveraging some of these existing models out there in the market today that are completely generalized towards any given industry, any given technology, any kind of aspect of life. We built something that in and of itself and kind of out of the box is very deeply embedded within the Web3 space, that is integrated with things like TradingView, for example. So from there, it really kind of already hones down a lot of that, those areas of interest for players within the Web3 space. So I think honestly, it simplifies a lot of that experience, out of the box. And then from there, if you have specific, interests in aspects of the industry, again, trading, kind of development, what's happening in the news, how that might be driving certain, market conditions that we're seeing on an ongoing basis, or how they may be playing a role, kind of that, how the rumor mill is somewhat playing a role in the market today. Those are all things that you can certainly get exposure to by using ALVA. So if anyone listening, I mean, definitely encourage you to go check it out. You know, kind of familiarize yourself with the type of out of the box, solutions and models that are available and accessible. And then from there, seeing if it fits your needs or if additional customization is required.
Awesome. Now, that actually might be very interesting to have for the podcast. Might help me do some research.
It absolutely will, and that's why I say, I mean, for example, like we use ALVA internally as well, just to have a regular feed of what's happening in the market today. What is the news? What are different players doing from an innovation standpoint? Is there, certain events happening in the ecosystem, hacks or otherwise, that we should be aware of? All of those type of different conversations, all bottled up into one easily digestible format that's produced by ALVA on an ongoing basis. So it is absolutely something I recommend, more for businesses as well, to use in that or similar ways.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll try it out. Is it available now? Like you can get it in Chrome browser?
Yep. So if you go to Galxe's website, so that's galxe.com, you can go through there and there'll be a tab for ALVA where you can start to play around with the solution.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll try it out. I'll give you my feedback. Want to move on to Gravity as well, 'cause I know you mentioned that earlier. I've seen some announcements on Gravity and being a layer one blockchain on Galxe. Can you share some more about the initiatives and activities that maybe Gravity is more focused on, and what makes it different?
Yeah, absolutely. So uh, I'll kind of touch on it's geared as a high performance parallel EVM layer one, and it's specifically geared towards not only supporting Galaxy suite of solutions, but also an ecosystem of developers that demand high performance for their applications and their further and for their users for that matter. In terms of the inspiration, Gravity really came about because as our ecosystem grew, we've onboarded more than 30 million users. We have about 70 chain integrations. We have leading products across loyalty programs, growth campaigns, token rewards, credential systems. We experienced a lot of those issues that are commonly talked about for blockchain scaling solutions that we were facing, constraints in themselves. So for us, it was very clear that we needed to, take our expertise, take our lived experience, and find a way to develop a new approach for performance, scale, and omni-chain interaction. To your question, we put out a lot of great announcements and information as it relates to our efforts, both on the technical and the ecosystem building side. So to name a few of what we've talked about lately that I think your listeners might be interested in diving a little bit deeper into would be, for example, we launched a $5 million Gravity developer grant program, a $50 million ecosystem alliance or ecosystem VC alliance, and then also released some more information from a technical perspective around like GRAVM 1.0, which we can talk about as well. So on the Gravity Developer Grants program, that is a $5 million pool of investments that Gravity operates, wherein we're looking to incentivize developers to go build the next great pieces of critical infrastructure, cornerstone tasks within the ecosystem, and supporting technologies that will help with the long-term growth of the Gravity ecosystem. Then from the Ecosystem VC Alliance, which is that $50 million ecosystem fund, that's a consortium of third-party investors that have committed funds and are looking to gain exposure to those next big wave of ecosystem projects. So a great resource in and of itself for teams that are looking to go raise capital to fuel the innovation, the ideas that they have in mind. And then in terms of GRVM, the release of GRVM, which is the Gravity EVR or the Gravity EVM, apologies, is an open source parallel EVM runtime that's built on our EVM. And so our GREVM's algorithm takes inspiration from BlockSTM and is further refined through an integration of a transaction data dependency derived from simulation results. And I know that's a mouthful. But this approach for us has enhanced parallel execution scheduling and for us has effectively reduced the need for transaction re-executions. So in terms of a more in-depth analysis of GRVM, I highly encourage, along with the rest of these announcements that we've been putting out, for your listeners to go read through our documentation, read through our blog and our social activity. And I think that'll give a good understanding of all of the great things that are happening as it relates to Gravity today.
Awesome. Can all that stuff be found on the website as well? The blog, documentation, all that?
Yep, absolutely. So if you go to our website, you can go and see the blog, which is host to all of these different announcements, as well as some links to our socials, for example, which constantly update around some of the recent integrations that we have, some of our new partners that we're announcing, and things of that nature.
Awesome. And then does Galaxy have its own native token? And if so, what does some of that utility kind of look like within Galaxy's ecosystem?
Yeah, so we do, and that's the G token. Now, I think the G tokens is particularly interesting because we've unified all of Galaxy's products and the Gravity chain under a single token for utility, transacting, payments, and governance, and that's the G token, as I mentioned. So maybe the way that you can look at this from a utility standpoint is kind of evaluating from three different groups, if you will. So one would be staking and the GDAO, so for governance. So by staking G, you can actively participate in the direction of where Galaxy and Gravity go from here. And in turn, and in reward for as a reward for participating in that ongoing governance process, you're also eligible to receive rewards from the partners that we work with on a day-to-day basis that are distributed through to that G staking network of stakers. And right now we have currently probably north of about 50,000 stakers within that program, for example, again, participating in governance, but also getting access to the rewards and the benefits of doing so. And we in turn have distributed, millions of dollars in tokens through that program itself. In terms of transacting, as it relates to Gravity Chain, G is utilized for execution and paying for all of the on-chain transactions on Gravity Chain. So that's relatively straightforward. It's a native gas token. And then for payments, G is used within the Galxe suite of applications or applications that are built by Galxe. So the ones we've already talked about, Passport, Quest, Score, Compass, ALVA, and so on, and is used to facilitate unlocking those different services, paying for those different services, and so on.
Looking into next year, into 2025, what is on your guys' roadmap that you think would be important for people to know? Anything you guys are cooking up on the back ends that people should keep an eye out for? What can you tell us about the new year for Galxe?
In terms of 2025, we have a lot of great news that we're going to be sharing on an ongoing basis around new product releases, updates to our ecosystem, new partners that we've onboarded or partnerships we've formed in relation to both Galxe and Gravity. But probably one of the biggest pieces of our biggest announcements that we'll have is going to be around the launch of Gravity's mainnet. Now, I don't have a specific date. Get involved in X, Discord, Telegram groups. We're going to be sure to keep the community up to date on everything that is happening around the mainnet launch, as well as some of those other areas that I just referenced.
Awesome. And we'll put all the links in the description for the episode down below for anyone that wants to find some of those links and socials. But what's your guys' handle? And where should people go in particular to kind of keep up with everything? And then do you guys also have community on Discord or Telegram or elsewhere?
Yes. So Telegram, Discord communities are set up. You can find all of that information via our websites or two domains that are probably the biggest cornerstones of the Gravity and Galxe ecosystem. That would be Galxe, that is GALXE.com, and then Gravity, and that's gravity.xyz. And that'll have all of the supporting links to each one of our different social channels, for example.
Sweet. Patrick, it's been a pleasure having you on today and learning about what you guys are doing with Galxe, Gravity, your other products. I think it's awesome, some of the things you're tackling in terms of digital identity, some verifiability around that as well. ALVA sounds really cool. I'll give you my feedback on ALVA as well. I'll try that out. But you guys are working on some great stuff. Excited to see what you guys do in 2025. So keep me updated, and maybe we can come back on sometime next year when you guys have some more updates and we can do another episode, do a part 2.
Yeah, Brandon, I appreciate you having me on, and definitely looking forward to catching up and hearing your feedback about all things Galxe, ALVA, and Gravity.
Sounds great. Take care, man. Happy holidays, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Bye.